Welcome to Two Souls Podcast, a podcast to shift, impact, empower, and disrupt your consciousness, ultimately allowing you to thrive in this human experience. Now here are your hosts, Amber Megenhauser and Angela Blaha. Welcome everyone to Two Souls Podcast. We are so thankful that you are here today. And we have a very, I want to say, broad topic for you today. So, hey Amber, how are you?
Fantastic. How about you?
Great. Couldn't be better. So what do we get to explore?
Today I thought we'd talk a little bit about how the things like the different moon phases and the eclipses that come in, how they actually help us be our natural goddess self.
Yes. We do not pay attention to any of those things because we're in such deep competition always. I feel like that's the evil part of humanity, is the competition part, because we're constantly looking outside of ourselves for, how to be. When if we actually took a
Yeah.
step back and listened to the natural world, like the earth, the seasons, the moon phases, the eclipses, the retrogrades, the planets, the cosmic field, if we actually harmonized with all of that, we would feel like a goddess, right? We would feel like a god because we'd be in a
Yeah.
natural state of continuous flow versus this resistance kind of a pattern that we seem to have created.
Yeah. I think we all kind of resist a lot of the moon phases because people just don't know how to flow with them and how to use them to their advantage.
Mm-hmm. Right. So when there's a new moon, that's a total darkness, right? What do we do in total darkness? There's plenty of, I want to say, a new moon is more powerful than a full moon. Even though I'm a full moon god worshiper, like I love the full moon. I love the energy that it brings. I love how there's not really a difference between day and night. It's just the light factor changes. We go from penumbral energy, which is the light of the moon, to the light of the sun, which is just full on sun. But there's not really a difference. The only thing that changes is the frequency of the light. But when we have a new moon where there's a definite difference in the frequencies and the energies between no light and pure sunlight. But how do we even pay attention to that? Do we even have a flow? And what do we do in no light? Like, we have a real deep fear of no light. Why is that? And we all know that when we
I
have
don't
a
know.
fear,
People view it
go ahead.
I think people just view the no light as like darkness in general instead of realizing that when you have no light, it forces you to go within.
Yeah, and we've been trained, through religions that darkness means evil. It doesn't. There's nothing. It's just a
Yes.
different color of the spectrum. And that darkness is very, for me, when I move into a new moon, kind of an energy of the pure deep darkness, it doesn't mean shadow energy. It doesn't mean my thinking patterns become very evil or demonic. It means that there really is a sense of, gosh, how do I even describe it? A sense of being like balanced, or a sense of being in harmony, or a sense of being like there's a deep deepness, to no light, right? Like it makes you go so deep into yourself, so far inward that you can get lost inside of yourself. Maybe that's the fear that's been, when people have experienced that in the past, the ancients, our ancient, ancestral beings, like maybe that's where that fear came from, because you could sort of get lost within yourself versus
Yeah.
and when we get lost within ourselves, those deep kinds of questions come out of, man, who am I and why am I in this human form? And what does it all mean? Like that for a lot of people is very, very scary.
Yeah. I think it's scary for a lot of people too that don't know their self very well. It's scary for
Mm-hmm.
everyone to turn inward because we're so used to looking, and we're taught to look outside of ourselves for everything we need. But in reality, everything that you need is inside of you.
Yeah, you can't actually access the archetypal energies of your god or goddess self unless you go inward. I mean, it just cannot happen unless you go
Yeah,
inward. And I think that the natural world provides that for us, but we have been programmed out of that. We don't pay attention to retrogrades, for example. When a moon goes into or when a planet goes into a retrograde, all it means is that it slows down. And if we're not actually taking the time to slow down and to flow with that kind of energy, and there's a real, like, I want to call it a war that happens, you know, and we see it within ourselves. We see it within our technology. We see it within our, that vibrational pattern doesn't flow. And when there's no flow, there's a resistance pattern that comes in. There's a disruption that comes in. Um, and it can create chaos. Well, it does create chaos.
absolutely. And if anybody out there, if you really pay attention to this and do this as an experiment, you can tell that when a planet is in retrograde, like everything goes wrong in your life if you do not take that time to slow down and really look around you. Like
Mm-hmm.
you have so much chaos, and I had somebody actually I talked to the other day, and this is how she was. She just, like, everything in her life was going wrong, and she's like, it's always something. It's this, it's that, and it really shows you that if something is in retrograde, that literally your whole life is in chaos because you are not taking the time to slow down. So it forces you to slow down and causes all this chaos around you, and people are just like, what the heck is going on? But if you really looked at, like, the cosmic energy of it, you would understand that, oh, you know what, the universe is just telling me, slow down a little bit. And if you don't, your whole life's chaos. It creates the chaos for you so that you can, it
So that you
forces
have
you
to
to slow
force,
down
yeah.
instead of you
Yeah.
just slowing down your, yeah, it forces you to
Mm-hmm.
to that, to slow down. Yeah. So
Yeah.
whether we want to or not, if we don't flow with the energies, it forces us to flow with it, but in a really unexpected bad way. Where if you utilize it to your advantage and just take a step back and be like, what is going on? Like, why am I in chaos? Why is everything going wrong? What is happening? You can actually see what is going on instead of just keep living in chaos and having things happen to you over and over and over again to force you to that retrograde.
Exactly. So, I think that that's what the ancients, like our ancient ancestors, like were really good at. I mean, they had gifts in, well, their whole life focused on the natural world and how to harmonize with it. Now, our whole life
Yeah,
focuses on, work and money and all this other kind of, it's completely taken us out of our natural way of being. And when we're out of our natural way of being in flow, our natural state as a human race is to flow. When you're in flow, you have happiness, joy, bliss, like you have this interconnection with the cosmos, with all that is. You have this interconnection with your God self. We no longer have that. Well, very few of us have
Yeah.
that. And that is what we're searching for. We have these deep yearnings, these deep desires to be connected, to, know who our spiritual team is, all that kind of stuff. When if we actually moved back into harmony with the natural world, we wouldn't seek those things. We wouldn't have these deep desires to be in that natural state of flow. We've come so far from it, which is what duality is, right? We've come so far from our natural way of being that we don't know how to be. And that's what we're searching for. We're constantly looking for something.
Do you think that some of this and what people seek is because they do not view themselves as their natural goddess self? Like, this is one thing that blows my mind about society. And I think it's because I came from such a point in my life where I lived such a lack life to becoming who I am today. Like, people just, they view themselves as lack instead of like this goddess energy that all of us are. It just, like, this is a subject for me that, like, I could talk for hours about this because I just don't understand how we are all taught to look down on ourselves, I guess, in a way. Like, you never are taught to that you're powerful, that you're a goddess, that, you're a queen, that you can be anything you want to be. Instead, we're just like taught to just get by. And that's how we view everything in life, unless you're taught a different way. So I think people struggle so much with stuff like this just because they view themselves as a lack instead of as something big, as something like they don't, and people don't put themselves as a priority in their life. Like, we
Right.
don't we don't put ourselves first, and we should be. And how do we teach people that you are that goddess? You are that amazing person. You should hold yourself to the highest possible standard that you can even imagine or think about. Why do we like view ourselves as lack, so to say? how can
Well,
we how can we use like things in the natural world, like the moon phases, the eclipses, the like little things like that we all should be utilizing to our advantage? How can we use things like that to help us understand like who we are and view ourselves as the most greatest thing on this earth?
that's what separation is, you see. When we have separated
Mm,
ourselves so much from the natural world, our natural way of being, which is our God self, our goddess self, our God, right? That's the natural way of being. But that's what
yeah.
separation is when you move so far in another direction from that, you create separation. Now we're pretty much at the end point of separation, of being so far away from our goddess self, that that's what we're searching for now, right? Like each one of us has this, especially women today. I feel like we have this really deep desire, deep yearning to know the God self, to know that goddess, to know the queen, to know how to get back to that natural state of who we are as a human being. That's what we're searching for. We're constantly in search for
Yeah.
that, but we've been programmed to look outside of ourselves. It cannot happen looking outside of you. Now, I can give you tools, I can give you concepts and ideas, I can help hold space for you, I can help um, I can help you find clarity, the clarity that you're looking for, but I cannot make you in flow or in um, return to your natural state of being, to your natural harmonization with all that is. That's totally up to you, and that's your journey. That's what the journey is of being a human being, right? We pay so much attention to what's our journey
Yeah,
here. Well, the journey is to go back to your natural state of harmony, your natural state of bliss, which is harmony, right? It's all the same thing. So, how can we teach people? Well, there's a big push now to create your own food and to be out in nature and to, you know, go inward and to deeply listen to yourself, deeply listen to the planets. They're constantly talking to us, you know, deeply listen to the trees outside of you. Like they're
yeah,
constantly telling you what to do. They're constantly like giving you information, feeding you information, but we don't listen. So the number one thing I believe is to listen. Learn to listen. Listen to your own intuitive self. Listen to your own, I mean, it's constantly telling you, right? But we ignore it.
absolutely. We do.
hmm So
We really ignore it. And
that
I,
first component is to listen.
yeah. And seriously, any of our listeners, go back and listen to season one because there is some really great nuggets
Mhm.
in there about how to open up and listen to yourself and your own intuition.
Yes. If not, take an intuition class or, reach out to us or, I mean, this is what we are constantly teaching. We are constantly teaching to go back to your natural state of being where you
Yep.
are in harmony with all that is. And a part of that, some of the tools are the planets, right? Are the moon phases, are, those are the tools to get you back into that way of being.
So, how can we use the moon phases, the new moon, the full moons, the eclipses to our advantage instead of letting it cause chaos in our life because we don't realize that there's a retrograde going on?
Right.
How can
So,
people that are not aware of the different phases like that, like what is some simple tools we could give them to help them pay attention to the different phases and what we can also do to use them to our advantage?
so eclipse energy, which we've just came past a couple eclipses, we'll have another one here at the end of December. But eclipse energies are disruptions, right? If we look at the at how they work, like the moon or the sun disrupt each other, and we are in the middle of it. The earth is in the middle of it. That's what an eclipse is. And they are meant to disrupt energy. So if you have some area in your life or a pattern or a thought or some emotions that need disruption, that need to be disrupted in order for you to make a different decision about or take a different action step, right? Use eclipse energy to make that happen. I mean, it's just a natural, easy transition if we actually use eclipse energies to disrupt us. Moon phases,
Yes.
full moon energy for me is all about like, how can I make my life better? Like, what kind of steps can I take? What can I, how can, full moon to me is all about shedding light on every single thing that I've ever dreamed, want, or desired. So if I use the full moon energy or building up to that full moon energy, I'm constantly asking myself, what else can I expand into? What else can I, where can I make a move or take an action step that's going to, unveil more potentials? New moon energy is all about me going inward and saying, okay, what's my new strength? What's my new ability? Where can I bring in, where can I transform this weakness into a strength? Like, those are the kinds of questions that I ask myself on those new moon kinds of energies that are like, they're very powerful. That new moon right now is, I want to say it's way more powerful than a full moon is, because it's all about digging up the energies within you that are really trying to come to the surface. So, use that to your advantage. Retrogrades, anytime a planet goes into a retrograde, it's a slowing down process. They're not disruptions, they're slowing down. You need to slow down, really contemplate whether this is a perfect alignment for you, really looking at your own strengths and your weaknesses and saying, okay, well, this, and actually acknowledging that this is a strength, right? And how can I harmonize this within my business or within my relationships or within my career, or whatever it is? How can I harmonize? Really, that's what a retrograde is asking you to do, is to take a couple steps back and say, okay, this is what I want, this is what I dream, this is what I desire. How can I make this actually work? That's how manifestation works. Is you're taking a picture of the 360 view, not of the 40-degree view.
I never looked at it like that. That's a really great way to put it.
Yeah. So those are, just a
So
few
during
things
like,
that are pretty common that we can actually
is it
use.
good for people to set intentions when the new moon comes for
It's
things that they want to come in?
anytime is good, Dame, for setting intentions. Actually, we should be setting intentions every
Yeah,
single day as soon as we get out of bed. If we,
absolutely agree.
yeah, all the time is a good time to set an intention. Because what intentions do is they sort of set a trajectory for the energy, to understand how to move forward. Intentions are, this is my intention. Like for the podcast, let's say, our intention for the podcast is to help people flow, to help people integrate, to give them ideas, to give them processes so that they can flow. Um, so
Yes.
that's the intention, right? So what that does is
Yeah.
it creates, or it brings in the vibrations, the frequencies, the energy patterns to actually make that happen. Now we use zero, like we don't have anything planned out. We have maybe a topic, and that's pretty much it. It's all creation in the moment, right? And so
Yeah.
that
Yep.
creation in the moment creates patterns, it creates vibrations, it creates frequencies. And people either connect to that kind of thing if they need that in their life in this time, or they don't. Like we're not into domination, control, manipulation. We're into creating frequencies, vibrations, patterns that can help evolutionize humanity. That's our purpose. And
Yes.
so when we harmonize with all that is, um, though that intention, creates these processes creates this energy for people to pick up on. And that's really, how the natural world works. So if we're using intentions in our daily lives, like we're creating in the moment, we're using our God self, we're using the goddess energy within us, and that creates more power within us. It creates more trust within us. It creates more confidence in who we are and why we're here. So the more that we use an intention, to create the vibration that we're looking for, to create that happiness feeling, really, that's what, when we're creating vibrations, we're looking for that happiness kind of feeling. We're looking for the flow. We're looking for the ease of life. We're looking for the freedoms that we've talked about in the past. And when we're in our power and we're in that state of being a god, or that God self, that goddess energy, like we're using the energies to create our natural way of being. And intentions are one of those tools that just sort of set the path. They like create the energy for it.
Stating what you want creates a lot
Mm-hmm.
of fantastic energy.
Yes, well, it puts it into motion.
Yes.
And
Yes.
just saying it in your head does not have the same power as writing it or stating it, like verbally stating it, saying it out loud.
Yes. It is definitely different when you either write it or state it.
Hmm.
It's so much more stronger.
Yes, it has power. Well, it starts the motion of the energy. You see, it starts the motion
Yes.
of the energy. And that's really what we're looking for when we move into our natural way of being. If you look around you, the cosmic field, the earth, the everything is just energy, right? And the natural world knows how to create. If we take nothing else from the natural world, but the ability to create, the earth was created through what? Fire, a ball of, like, right? Like, it knows how to create itself. That's what we
Yeah.
need to start moving back
Yeah.
into. When we talk about creation, we need to become those powerful beings that know how to create. This is what we're talking about. The natural world knows exactly how to create
Yeah.
something itself and something else. We can't be in a state of creation without being in harmony with all that is. And it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Mhm. So
That
moving
was
into
great.
2022, I can tell you, moving into 2022, if we're not following the natural flow, the natural rhythm of the cosmos, the natural world, allowing yourself to being that powerful goddess and God self, uh, there's going to be extreme chaos because separation, there's no more energy for separation. The earth, God, the cosmos, whatever, the universe, whatever words you want to call it, is saying, you know what, we can't have separation any longer because I need you back home. If we're talking about God, God is saying, I need you to come back home because we need to create some stuff. And in separation, you don't really create stuff. I mean, yeah, we have technology and,
No.
but technology is moving in a very demonic kind of a way. It's moving into, domination and control. And, if we're talking about God, God is saying, okay, that's the wrong path, people. You can't be moving on that path anymore because that's been done in the past and you've wiped yourself out because of that. So there's a big push, I want to say, in spirituality or, the people who are, I don't know, I don't even know what to call people. I don't want to limit them. But there's a big push for moving into the natural way of being, but we don't really remember because we've separated ourselves so far from the natural world. We don't really remember how to get back there. And I think that that's where we're stuck. We are really stuck at how do we pay attention to the natural world? What is the natural world? Right? Like, that's the very first question. I mean, we can
Yeah.
go back to, places like Peru or, indigenous communities where they still flow with that natural world and learn from them. But how many of us are actually going to do that? Probably hardly any of us. So
Yeah.
I think that we're grasping at these things of, creating your own food. Well, okay, how do I create my own food? Well, the ancients used to go by the moon phases, right? They knew how to flow with the
Yep.
moon, and which created the moon phases create or show the pattern of the seasons. They don't actually create it, they show the pattern of the seasons. And it's the seasons that actually grow food. That pattern
Yeah.
shows us how to grow food. But so we have this big push to grow your own food, but how many of us know how to use the moon phases to make it actually happen? Hardly
Not
anybody.
very many.
Right. So,
Yeah.
those are the kinds of things that we can start to learn, start to remember, start to pay attention. We can learn from others and how to do that and how to remember how to do that, and then actually do it. There's talk about doing it, but are we actually doing it?
Yeah, that's just it. You actually have to do. You can't just talk
Yeah,
about it.
right.
It's the key to it. You have to practice things in order to
Hmm.
become them.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Well, thank you for all of your knowledge with that. That is fantastic, and you're completely right. We all need to learn and utilize the natural earth to become our whole God self.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, thank you for all of your knowledge with that and breaking that down for everyone. We really appreciate it. If any of our listeners have any questions, topics you want us to talk about, feel free to reach out to Angela or I. We would love to have a discussion with you. Until next time, from our soul to yours, have a super fantastic day.